You know, I used to stand right there in Santa Fe, and when the young college skiers used to come down, I used to come up to all the young boys and say, "Hello, young man. What can I do for you?" They wondered who was that crazy little old lady. I was at that point worth about $70 million. You should have answered. Yes?
Did the will stand?
The will stands, no. The following year, my only sister, Anita, and one grandson and two of her granddaughters contested the will. It was a very nasty, nasty litigation, and somehow the state of New Mexico got involved in it. And eventually what happened was that Juan Hamilton ended up with $15 million, and when the family intervened, they didn't expect any money, but it turned out that in order to contest a will or to sue somebody, you have to want some monetary return. And so they each got $1 million in paintings, in assets. Juan got the 3 houses plus $15 million and certain pictures, which he wanted. And then the rest was distributed with foundations and with museums. You could have had one if you'd asked for it. Oh, yes, that one that looks so much like Alfred. I'm sure that you're really Alfred, reincarnated. Yes.
I don't think so, but anyhow, it'd be interesting. When you lived in New York, when you went to the Art Students League, that was what, on 54th Street?
Did I do what?
It was on 54th Street, I think, the
Yes.
Art Students League?
Yes.
Where did you live in New York?
Where did I live in New York then? Well, I was living a lot of the time with Anita Politzer, and then part of the time I just had a small room. I moved around different places, but it was mostly in upper Manhattan. I couldn't afford anything else but that. It was along Lexington and over there near Amsterdam.
Thank you.
Well, you really must have something to say to Georgia. I'm going to be very angry if you don't say something. You've got to say something to Georgia.
Where is Juan Hamilton today in 1999?
I didn't understand. What was the question?
Where is Juan Hamilton today?
Juan Hamilton, he lives in New Mexico, but he also has a huge home in Hawaii. He just sold the George O'Keeffe home, the one in Ghost Ranch. There again was litigation with the Presbyterians. And a Mrs. Marion, who is the woman from Fort Worth, Texas, a Texan. You know how I feel about Texans. Although I am glad that they at least had a George O'Keeffe museum for so many years. Everybody came to New Mexico looking for all of George O'Keeffe's artwork, and there was none. There were only 3 pieces in the whole state of New Mexico, so I'm very grateful to Mrs. Marion. Very grateful indeed, because she put up the money, and most of the paintings that were in the George O'Keeffe Museum were from private owners, mostly Texans. But at any rate, Juan Hamilton turned the Abiquiu House into a foundation. He's the head of the foundation. And it costs $20. They will only take 6 people at one time for a tour of the Abiquiu House. He has a house that's up what they call Barrancas, which is between Abiquiu and Ghost Ranch. So he finished and he started building that when he was just a hippie, and he did get a little help from me. But that's on a little small lake there, just north of Abiquiu, up toward Ghost Ranch, an 18-mile span. And so just to the west of the road there, close along the Chama River, which I painted so many times. You'll find a home that Juan lives in there. It's carefully guarded, and I can't tell you exactly where it is, but he did sell, the year after the settlement, he sold the house in Santa Fe, Sol y Sombra, the house that I lived in that pitiful little room out in the patio. He sold that to another Texan, a Mrs. Miller from Houston, Texas. So it's now turned into sort of an organic gardening place, and there, she was Mrs. Miller was a big friend of John Denver, and so that house that I lived in very briefly toward the end of my life, that has turned into an organic gardening place. But Juan sold that the following year, but he just sold this year the Ghost Ranch to Mrs. Marion again. But he lives, he can travel a lot, and some of his pottery is getting a lot of money.
I'm curious. Now, all these years later, you're standing up here talking to us. What does it make you think, seeing us all here?
Well, I've always thought that the world is such a beautiful place. I'm sorry that it's all messed up with people. some of you are quite ugly. But then, so be it. I mean, you can see, I mean, the type of people that populate the earth. I mean, why I really much prefer to paint nature and flowers and things of that sort. Crosses, bones, they interest me much more than people. People are sometimes very ugly.
While you were working, there was so much abstract painting going on. Did you have a feeling about that?
Oh, yes, well, I tried it. I certainly tried it, but it didn't come naturally to me. I mean, some people say that my work, even when I looked at the sunset in West Texas, and even when I looked at crosses and when I looked at rivers, they said it was somewhat abstract, but not really. My heart wasn't in it, just wasn't in it.
I don't have anything to ask, but I must say you were one tough broad.
Well, would you like to come to tea tomorrow?
As a matter of
Maybe
fact,
like to have a
I would.
cocktail. You know, Alfred Stieglitz, he was a teetotaler. He never drank anything alcoholic, and every now and then, I even tried peyote once. I did. I went to a rodeo in Las Vegas, New Mexico. I tried a little peyote. I didn't like it. I tried a little tequila, but I mean, I might offer you a drink. I do like an occasional beer. But I think I might like you. You're my sort of woman.
You might.
Yeah, you might. I think so.